Okay, so first things first, I've got Davinci Resolve 16 open and I'm currently in the color grade tab. I brought over my previous project from Premiere Pro as an XML file, and as you can see here in the other tutorials it's the exact same with the, unfortunately it hasn't recognized this title. So to do this you go to get all of your footage and your timelines. From Premiere Pro you go to File and Import Project or Import Timeline and choose the XML here, the Import XML. So when you're exporting from Premiere Pro, just make sure you export it as an XML. Okay, so jumping back over to the Premiere Pro file, if you click on this Clips tab here, you can see all of the clips next to each other, and make sure Nodes is open. That this is a node right here, and that's all we're going to look at the moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is make my waveforms visible, and I'm just going to change it from parade to waveform, and this is what a waveform looks like, and it's showing you all of the red, green and blue information from this image here. And we're going to look at some of these tabs. First I'm just going to sort of show you some of these tabs have tabs within them as well. We're going to click on the three colour wheels here. Sorry, the colour wheels are just next to that. And first we're going to start off with lift, gamma and gain. As a rule of thumb to do your colour correction, what we're going to do is try to get the lift of these, the bottom parade all the way, sorry, the bottom scope all the way to the base. And we're going to raise the top of the scope to the top, and we're just going to bring down the center gamma a little bit just to spread it all out, to even out, to give us some nice contrast and highlights. So this is very similar to the S-log, the S-curve that you would draw in your curves waveforms. So I'm just going to fiddle around with this, and already you can see while doing this in the top left corner the filter that I had on the lens has sort of affected it. And we do have some artifacting going on, which is a bit annoying because this is, I rendered this out in ProRes. The original file format was from the S1, and Davinci doesn't recognize it, so I converted it into a ProRes 422, and it's given me some really annoying artifacting, which is unusual. So I'm going to add a serial node now. I'm happy with this first sort of color correction, and I'm going to try to get this highlight issue sorted here, this shadowy issue sorted. So you can see here I'm just creating a circular window, and essentially what we can do with this sort of serial node created next to the main node is we can grade just within the area that we're specifying. And you don't have to be too accurate with something like this, and I'll show you why in just a second. But yeah, just be aware that the center is what will be affected, and then you've got the lines within that are all to feather it out so it looks more natural. So if I increase this, it basically will feather from the center outwards from here. So going back over here, I'm just going to lift this gamma, and you can see what it's doing here, just specifically to that corner on our waveform here, which is why waveforms are really sort of useful for this. I'm just going to create another serial node just next to it so we can sort of see what's going on, and you can see a little bit of a shadow if you're looking for it there. So I'm just going to play around with the size and feathering until I get this right. So you might be wondering what serial nodes are. So a node-based editor such as Resolve, essentially they're very similar to layers, and a serial node, just like using computer language in serial, it has one input, one output. It's one of the most basic nodes you can use for color grading in Davinci Resolve, and it just keeps everything nice and tidy. So if you do need to alter anything, you know which node has what effect on it, and you can see it here visually. So I'm quite happy with how that's looking now. You can't tell, and if I toggle this on and off by clicking the number, you can just see what a massive impact that has. Okay, so for now I'm quite happy with this. If you did want to change to your next clip, which is what we're going to do in just a second. In fact, I'm not really too, now I'm looking at the parade again, the waveform again, sorry. I'm just going to lower these again. Now it's all working together. I can sort of really have a play with these areas. So you'll notice straight away too much, reducing too much to get closer to zero is going to massively affect the contrast, and we want to be able to see it. So remember, color correction is all about getting the colors and the image brightness, contrasts and everything else as close as can be to accurate, and this is what it's looking like so far. So I'm quite happy with that straight away. Not happy with this artifacting, but going to look into this further later on. Okay, and there's our effect and our third serial number here. Serial node, sorry. So I'm going to show you now how to quickly grade based off of this colour correction that we've done. Sorry, how you can continuously colour correct from this work we've done in this first scene. Now, because I filmed a lot of this on the day in the same location, I'm going to just click on clips and select the next frame. Now, with that frame selected, you can right click your first clip and click on this apply grade button, and as you can see here, it drags across the exact same nodes with the effects that we created earlier. And if I full screen this, it's given us a pretty decent colour grade straight off the bat without colour correction straight off the bat. And if I do it onto this next scene, let's see how this looks. And it might be a bit worse, yet I thought as much because it is under shelter, unlike the other two shots. But now I can quite quickly just jump straight back over here and adjust these parameters to match everything up like we did earlier on with the first clip. So just a bit of tweaking here, doing the exact same as I was earlier on, reducing the bottom parameter of the scope closest to 0 and adjusting the top part of the scope close to that 1, 1, 2, 3, and then reducing the gamma ever so slightly to bring it in. Now, within this shot, I don't think I need the window that I created in the middle. You can see it is boosted the highlight slightly, so I could get rid of that, but I'm going to keep it here for now and just tweak this colour grade as you can see here. So we can see by turning that on and off, if it's off, it does look a lot better. So going back into clips, I can now grade the clip next to it the exact same. So clicking on it, right click, apply grade. And this is how you can really speed up the process. Now this is similar to those exterior shots. So again, I can go back to this first frame and looking at that straight away, this looks pretty nice straight out of the camera. Sorry, with this colour correction. And we can see here as well how that filter's impacted, and it's not as much here. So what I'm going to do at this point is again just tweak it slightly. I can see that there is a bit more room for tweaking on this scope waveform. It's showing me that there's a lot more boosted in the left, and that's because that's where the sun is. So again, don't really need this node turning on, so I'm going to leave that off. And in a second, I am going to add a bit more saturation and a little bit more color boosted to the image, because we are working with a flat color profile. So if you're used to working with Pocket Blackmagic cinema camera footage or other log footage, vlog, s-log, etc., the sort of grey image can remain like you can see here. So I'm going to add some more colors, and this is why the third serial is up. This shot is quite vivid already. But let's add a bit more colour to it and a bit more saturation and just see what we can get from it. Should bring out some more blues and some more greens because this is 10-bit footage. So we're going to increase it very slightly. I don't want to oversaturate the image and make it look too stylized. I can do that later on when we do some colour grading. But if you click on this 1-2 toggle within the colour wheels, you'll be able to access saturation. You can see what it's doing here on the waveform, and you can also access color boost. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It's a bit too vivid, but later on we can dial it back if we want. And I can do the same with this image. Just bringing up that color boost and saturation, just to really make that background pop. And you can also increase temperature if you're not happy with your color grade. Okay, so going back to this clip over here. Now this is a beautiful wide angle shot of the lake with the clouds and the sky. So we're going to really sort of, we're going to really enhance this just so that the reflections also a bit of colour comes out of these reflections from the background. So again, just dial some of this back a little bit, see what we can get from the image. So this scene was taken later in the day, so we're getting some nice warm temperatures anyway. And yeah, now I'm going to just apply the grade that we did to this earlier on to this rock here, and you can really see how it does pop the colours. Just correcting the colour grade, it's not affecting at this stage. We're not adding a colour grade to it, we're just colour correcting the footage. So what I do after this is just work my way through the project, really kind of getting that looking good, and that is essentially it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial.